Hey bitches, welcome back to another episode of Confessionals. Today's episode is going to be all about self-love. I've been on my self-love journey for years, for a long time, and it's been it's been an uphill battle up until now. And girl, the universe has thrown so many tests at me. It's had people disappoint me. It's made me feel inferior and powerless so many times, but I don't know. I This is a topic that is very personal for me because I have fought so hard to get to where I am right now, to achieve the level of confidence that I have right now, the amount of self-love. And obviously it hasn't been perfect, but I feel like I am at a peak right now. It feels amazing. It feels amazing to really know myself and to know what I want, to question myself without judgment, to be open to experiences, to love myself through very difficult challenges, because that's what I've been doing my whole life, right? Like, I'll go into it later in the episode, but girl, my life has been hard. I say this all the time, but I grew up with an absent father and an abusive mother and poor, poor as hell. So I didn't really have obviously the best upbringing, and my relationship with myself was always just terrible. I mean, I thought I was ugly from an early age. I thought I was dumb. I thought so many negative things about myself that I were not mine. These weren't my thoughts, these weren't my ideas. These were things that were told to me as a child, and then or that I would hear, and then I internalized them. So, coming from that space where you're only celebrated for what you can do for others and how good you manage other people's issues and stress and how good and quiet you can be, coming from that to being where I'm at now, to where I am super confident. I really just love myself. I love the way that I think, that I speak, the way that I look, the way that I treat people. And even when people do me dirty now, I don't even get angry anymore. Really. Like, maybe sometimes I'll feel a little bit of that rage, but that rage is very separate from me. Like, before it would just consume me, and then now it's just something that I feel and that I identify, and I just kind of let it linger for as long as it needs to, and then I release it, because I know that it's just a sign. It's just information for something that is going on in my body that I need to look into. But yeah, I'm so grounded now. I am securely attached for the most part. And I know that there's other things that need to grow. And I know what they are, and I am invested in growing. So going from that to this has been just very rewarding. I feel very proud of myself, and I feel like I can speak on it and offer some insight on the things that I did to get to this point. So yeah, if this is something that interests you, bitch, if you want to love yourself, if you want to really do away with that self-hatred and the negative self-talk and the limiting beliefs, then continue listening to the episode. And I really hope that this helps people. I mean, these are very basic things. They're simple, but they can be challenging to apply. But I always say that it's more challenging to be living with your demons and letting them control you than it is to fight them and do away with them. I've always been a very resilient person. I've gone through a lot of hardship in my life, a lot of change, instability, and at one of my peaks instabilities was like my parents' divorce, growing up very poor, my mom's psychotic behavior, and I just had to be like the calm one, and I as a child, and I couldn't react, otherwise I'd get my ass whooped, right? I mean, I'd get my ass whooped for like dropping a fork, for breaking something, for talking back, things like that. So I was just always just so suppressed as a person, but I was still very resilient because every time something negative happened, I would try to have a positive perspective and to offer some sort of light to the situation. And usually it worked. Like, usually I would say something that would make my mom feel better. I would take care of whatever needed to be taken care of once I got a little bit older. I was the fixer, right? And in my opinion, that is light and that is positive energy and that is like godlike energy, but it was just being applied on like a very dark environment that I shouldn't have been in. So eventually, later on, once I became an adult or like a young adult after like 17, 18 and up, my whole 20s have been a fucking chaotic ride of just my relationship with myself and my mental health. In my early 20s, I felt what it was like to be quote unquote like I consider myself free. I'm like, I'm 18, I can be free. But even though legally I was free, I could do whatever I wanted to do without my mom like trapping me. Mentally, I couldn't. I had Stockholm syndrome and I was very stuck. And I replicated that dysfunctional environment in my relationships, and it was really hard to come face to face with my own darkness when there was so much darkness around me. So the first step that was vital, the most vital step to my growth was getting away from that environment and was moving to LA. Once I moved here at 25, like I was already working super hard and I was trying my best to avoid these situations, but I was still like chemically addicted and attached to these harmful people. Once I got away from that, it took a month. It took less than a month for me to completely detach from these people because my life was just so peaceful. Everything was so peaceful. And that's when my journey truly, truly began. It was just jump started from there. Like I had always tried really hard, but my steps were super small because people kept injuring me in the process. But now that those people weren't around, I was free. I was free to do whatever I wanted to do. And I felt like I loved myself so much and it came out of nowhere. But I don't want to just say that that came out of nowhere because that came from my resilience of like keeping up the good fight despite people, like, even though I was crawling in pain, like I was still climbing up. So I owe that confidence and that resilience and dedication to grow to that. So it didn't just come out of nowhere. But anyways, I got to LA. I felt the most confident I've ever felt in my life. I was happy. I spent a lot of time alone. I knew what I wanted, what I needed to focus on. And the reason that I was vibrating so high, that like I'm working really hard to get back to that. I feel like I'm there. I'm almost there. But my vibration was so high because I was just functioning out of like love and art and my passion, and there was nothing getting in my way. So the first step was to get away from all that, right? Once I got away, time passed, things happened. I was attracting really positive things. I was getting represented. I was getting a million auditions. I got attention everywhere. And then I dealt with sexism and racism in the industry. And now I learned, lesson learned, I should not have had that have such a huge effect on me, but it did. It did. And that negative energy consumed me. So the next step for me during that time was to unlearn negative self-talk, negative beliefs, because I would always be like, "Oh, they only want me to be either the child in a Disney show or they want me to be the hypersexual prostitute." And I'm like the token Latina on a terrible story that some white person broke. Like I was just really frustrated. And instead of focusing on, yeah, this is an issue, how can I fix this? Instead of being solution oriented, I was sulking in the negativity, and that took away all my opportunities that I had. I got nothing after that because I was so hyper focused on the negative things that were in front of me instead of transforming them into something positive. And that's just the way that life is. Like there's always going to be some negative fucking bullshit, and it sucks and it might make you feel bad, but letting it consume you is letting that negative thing win. It's always a battle and you always have to be prepared to win. So I had to unlearn all of these negative beliefs that I had. I started to believe that, oh, this is the way that people view me. This is this, there's something true about this, but it frustrates me that it's true. It's not true, right? And I eventually fell into like a really bad depression, two really bad depressions, 2021 and 2022. And I couldn't understand how I had gotten away from my toxic environment. I was vibrating so high when I got here, and then I experienced life, and all of a sudden my mental state was back down. And it was down in a different way, um because now I had to face my darkness, my demons. Positive things and negative things were happening around me, and that was triggering all the suppressed hidden stuff that I couldn't see before because I was too busy, fighting off real fucking human demons. You know what I mean? So yeah, I after a few years, I saw the importance of shadow work and facing your darkness. That's the third thing. You have to feel the ugly, and you have to be honest with yourself, and there's always something scary, right? Like for example, if you meet a person, like a guy or a girl, and you start dating them, and you see some red flags and you ignore them, the red flags are always lingering in your minds, but you just kind of blip, blip, you just push them to the side, right? You don't listen to them, but there's always that little voice. There's always my closet light turned off, and it's bad for the lighting, but yeah, there's always that little thought in the back of your head that this isn't right for you, that you've seen the red flags. Your intuition is always telling you what is wrong, but you muffle that voice and you don't listen to it. Well, I'm here to tell you that if you want to love yourself, you're going to have to come face to face with the truth. There is nothing more important in this world than the truth, because the truth is objective. It is the path to growth. And even if the truth is ugly, it's there to make things no longer ugly. If you don't face the ugly parts of you, the bad parts of you, you're gonna stay ugly, bro. Like you're gonna not grow, and you're gonna stay stuck in that same situation. So I definitely had to do a lot of shadow work. I had to face my feelings of shame, my anxious attachment style. Like, why did I feel this way? A lot of the times, actually, when I was depressed back home, I was depressed because a lot of things happened to me and that made me numb, therefore depressed. When I was a child, I was depressed because I didn't realize how shitty people were to me. Like I was getting beat all the time. Of course, I'm gonna be fucking depressed. But when I came to LA, I nothing was really wrong, other than maybe just rejection from auditions and callbacks. But that wasn't really a pressing thing for me. So I couldn't really figure out what was wrong. And that made me more depressed because I thought that something was wrong with me. I'm like, why am I depressed if there's no bad people around me? I tried my best. I'm doing, like, there was no reason, technically, right, in my head for me to be depressed. So I thought that there was something wrong with me. And that was the first wrong like thing to believe. You have to come face to face with your beliefs. What is something that you believe about yourself that is hurting you? Because I was depressed for quote unquote no reason, I thought that there was something wrong with me. Well, who said I was depressed for no reason? Just because it feels that way doesn't mean there isn't a reason. It just means that I don't know what the reason is. But depression, sadness, anger, all emotions always have a reason. There's always a motherfucking reason, bitch. And through therapy, I just realized that I was like emotionally backed up. um I had And now I had the time, now I had the energy, now I had the space to process a lot of unprocessed shit. I was extremely hurt about like the sexual assaults that I experienced. I was extremely hurt by my parents. I didn't really know how bad they were, both of them. I knew that my dad was kind of like shitty, but I was just like whatever. And I knew that my mom had hurt me, but I still considered her a good mother. Why? Because she fed me, because she gave me toys, um, she sustained us, but I mean, that's just, if you don't do that, you go to jail. I mean, she honestly, a lot of the things she did would require some jail time, right? But yeah, I did just didn't know what was wrong. I didn't know a lot of the things that were done to me. I still functioned in a lack of awareness and self-love. Like when I started dating here in LA, I was in some situations where I was letting guys kind of like pressure me into sex or um not treat me 100%. And I thought that my standards were high because I expected a man to pay. That doesn't mean that your standards are high at all. At all. And that was a big misconception that I had. Like, that's just something that is thoughtless. Like, yeah, a man should pay for you. There's nothing really to think about when it comes to that, right? So I thought that that was me having high standards. No. Once it came to people pushing my boundaries, I became small because that's how I grew up. So I had to unlearn, I had to face the truth that I clearly don't love myself enough because believe actions, not words, even from yourself. I always told myself, I love myself now. I feel hot. I feel attractive, which I before I didn't, and now I did. But that clearly wasn't enough. And I thought that I loved myself just because I found myself more attractive and I was getting more attention and I knew who I was. But when it came to my actions, when it came to like how friends treated me, how guys treated me, I was like, why did I allow these people into my space, into my life, into my secrets, into my body? I must not love myself like I say that I do. If I'm allowing somebody to treat me this way, just like if you are when you are with a partner and your partner tells you how much they love you, how special you are, yeah, you hear those words and you believe them, but then they go off and cheat on you, then they go off and steal from you or whatever the case may be, you have to question that love, even when it comes to yourself. So, I questioned that love when I was dating this guy who was not bad at all, good guy, but he just couldn't be with me. Like we were not a match, and he knew that, right? I think he knew that better than I did at the time, and he broke things off with me, and I had limerence for a while, for months, and I usually get over people pretty quickly, but with this case, I couldn't for some reason, and I questioned myself. I was like, why am I stuck on somebody that doesn't want to be with me, that knows that we're not a match? And I heard a voice in my head telling me, you don't love yourself like you think you do. And yeah, that was the truth and it was right in front of me and I could have either shoved it to the side or asked it questions. You have to ask yourself more questions. Once you come face to face with the truth, it'll tell you you don't love yourself. It'll tell you maybe you think this way, you think you're whatever the case may be, right? You have to be curious. You have to approach things with curiosity. And once I did that, oh my God, just like a surge of negative things came flashing. And I realized that even like with my friends, with like friend breakups that I've had, every girlfriend, not every girlfriend, but a lot of the girlfriends that I had, I was replaying the relationship that I had with my mom. And these girls were not abusive per se, like they weren't mean. They were not mean girls, but they were overly critical. They were always expecting me to like kind of emotionally take care of them, and they were always allowing people to treat them like shit. And and then when I would try and like help them, they would kind of reject my help and be like blah 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 whatever. Like they wouldn't really listen. And they would always talk about themselves. So, and every girl was different. Every girl had her own big demon. But once I broke it off with these girls, I questioned it again. I'm like, why am I allowing these friendships? Oh, it's the relationship with my mom. I'm the caregiver in this situation. So once I do that, once I realize that truth, I'm like, okay, well, I need to stop because I deserve better than that, because I am so special, because I offer genuine love and genuine friendship. I can't be accepting this. Like it's just unacceptable. And after all this, right? After relationships, after friendships, my relationship with my parents, after facing the truth, coming face to face with my shadow work, there then came shame. And I felt ashamed that I treated myself that way. I felt a lot of shame that I allowed guys to take advantage of me, that I froze up, that I felt guilty for not letting them have sex with me. Um, that, it's just all of the guilt and the shame just like overpowered me, right? That I felt dirty. I felt taken advantage of. I felt powerless. All these feelings came through. And that's the thing with facing the truth. It's not just going to be like, okay, that's the truth. Let me fix it and everything's good. No, you're probably going to, a lot of like more negative feelings are going to surface, but that's not necessarily bad. Just because negative feelings surface doesn't mean that you are those negative feelings. Those negative feelings they're part of you right now, but they are separate and they don't have to exist there. The reason that you're seeing them is for you to release them because they've been tucked away inside. So now that they're flaring in front of you in flames and shouting at you, that's good because they're not in your body anymore or they're coming or in the process of coming out. So that is a good sign, right? All the shame, all the things kept pushing through and it feels ugly. It feels disgusting. I don't like it, right? And then the shame with my religious past came through as well. So that's when I had to learn the next step towards loving myself. I had already faced the truth. I had gotten away from my harmful environment. I had faced the truth. I had done my shadow work. And now that the shame came seeping through, it was time to forgive myself. It was time to have empathy. And yeah, I mean, this is probably one of the toughest parts. Like, I feel like sometimes for some people, the toughest part is facing the truth. But for me, I think the hardest part has been forgiving myself because it is so easy to just be shitty, right? To yourself. It's so easy to yell at you, to sermon yourself. And yeah, no, I had to really be empathetic and forgive for the my trespassings or my wrongdoings and also understand that maybe some things don't I shouldn't even be sorry for. I should just understand that that happened because I was in a bad space and I was doing the best that I could at the time. So, like when I look back at my negative sexual experiences, like my sexual assault or things like that, it's I no longer feel shame because it wasn't my fault, and it's so obvious, right? To accept that it's not your fault or to say that it's not your fault, but to really internalize it, it takes a lot of forgiveness because sometimes you think you know better and then the moment comes and you freeze up and then you don't, right? So that's why I think it's so important to work on your self-love because you build that resilience, you build that stamina, that consistency to when it comes to saying no and when it comes to defending yourself. You're stronger, you're not as weak. So I was weak back then, but I can't shame myself. I can't judge myself for that weakness. I had been fighting so hard. I've been in the battlefield for all my life. How do I expect myself to not have some level of weakness, especially in those moments where I was trained to put myself down, right? Like I was literally made for those experiences, unfortunately, by my caregiver. So like I had to give myself grace. It's just I would give it to a stranger. Why can't I give that to myself? So, yeah, forgiveness um comes after that. I feel shame when I've been really nice to exes that have been shitty to me. Like with my abusive ex, I remember kind of he got physical with me and I ended up going to the police station and even after that, I still saw him. I didn't sleep with him, but I still saw him and was nice to him and even gave him like a mug, a gift. And I said bye to him before I left LA. And I regretted that for such a long time. But now that I look back, it's just like I don't even care, I just don't want him in my life. Like I don't care how nice or how mean I was. I don't really care. I'm just glad he's gone. And I was recently feeling this because I got broken up with in November and Oh God, that's been a journey. It's been 4 months since the breakup, and then for 2 months we were kind of back and forth. And it's crazy to go through these challenging things when I'm already at a certain level, because my level that I think that I'm at is being tested. I feel like it literally feels like the universe is telling me, okay, you got here. Now you're securely attached. Now you know how to love yourself better in relationships. Now you know what you want and what you truly desire. You learned so much in this relationship. You learned that maybe you do want kids, maybe you do want a family, right? Now that you feel so sure and so secure in those things, it's taken away, and the thing that gave me that security was taken away to see if that security came from the thing or if it came from me. And yeah, that's my big lesson right now. It's like, did I actually love myself, or did that romantic situation, that relationship, did that make me feel like I loved myself? Like, was it the relationship or was it me? And it's been 4 months, and it's been 2 months of no back and forth. And I can say I'm so fucking proud of myself. Like, I don't even want to get emotional because I have a date and I don't want to cry, ruin my makeup. But um, yeah, it came from myself because I fought hard for that relationship. I really loved this person. Like, I could say that was the first time I ever fell in love. But I'm gonna tie it back to the whole regretting being nice thing. I didn't know. I had to figure so much shit out in these 4 months. Like, do I hate him? Do I love him? Do I choose to stay in love with him and wait for him? Um, and the situation at the moment, it felt like it called for that, but I learned later that it didn't. But yeah, I was trying to figure out, like, would I every question was about loving myself. Is this aligned with loving myself? So when I asked myself, is waiting for him a way for me to does that reflect my self-love? Is it loving myself? So I had to grapple with that question because he was a great guy. He treated me amazing. There's flaws just like in any relationship, and now I know, I see things so much clearer now, like the red flags, why it didn't work out, his relationship with himself, every day gets clearer and clearer. But yeah, I had to answer these tough questions. And I asked myself, like, am I still securely attached? Like, I learned how to be securely attached through this relationship. He had a lot to do in that process. Being securely attached is something that you can usually mostly learn through relationships. So, yeah, he was great. He was patient with that. And I asked myself, like, without him, am I securely attached? Would I feel securely attached in my next relationship when I start dating guys? And I feel very confident in saying yes. And also, if something comes up, if I feel a little anxious or something, now I know how to nip it. Now I know how to address it. So, yeah, I had to figure a lot of shit out. And the thing with that situation is that the last interaction we had, I was very nice. Like, I could even say I was too nice, honestly. That's how I feel right now. I feel like I was too nice, and I regretted it for a little bit. I felt shame because I didn't know why, and I had to ask myself, like, why do I feel shame about being nice, being too nice? Why do I feel like this person was great, but they also did me very dirty? He did me dirty. So I was like, oh, maybe I shouldn't have been so nice. Oh, like, I don't know. I like, obviously can't send another message because I'm just giving my power away. And not in a egotistical way of like, I should hang on to all this power and I should have the upper hand. And no, not in that way, but it's just in a way of like, how much energy does this person deserve? How much energy does this situation deserve? If I message more, it's not about giving power away necessarily, it's about giving energy. So I'm like, I don't want to give any more energy. I really don't. And yeah, maybe I was a little too nice, but you know what? Out of all people, he deserves more grace, right? It's like, it's fine. With him, it should be fine. Even if he did me dirty, whatever. um I think it's in this situation, like, now I understand objectively what the situation calls for, and I honored what I felt in that moment. I still didn't say anything wrong, like, the things that I said I believe are still true. I think I was just a little too soft and I gave too much energy. It would have been fine if I just wouldn't have sent anything. But now I know it's like stop acting on a whim, stop acting on your emotions, and just be grounded and know that you can't. I was still trying to hang on to, once I started being introspective, I realized that me being too nice, I was trying to have control still over the situation. I was trying to control my perception, his perception of me, and I was trying to make it positive and like have something good and have good energy when I should have just stayed doing that with in here with myself. I didn't need to send a message for that. At least not in that situation. So, yeah, I forgave myself for that because it's like it's really not that serious. It really isn't. And I am kind of brought forth my pattern of like doing that in relationships when something bad happens or I get done dirty and I'm still so nice and I'm still so giving. And now I know that now the problem surfaced or that I see a problem. Now I know what to do next and like how to handle it. And I'm a little bit more grounded when it comes to those situations. It's important to give yourself credit, to say positive things about yourself. Like now, I only say positive things about myself. I say how attractive I am. I say how magnetic, how kind. Like my heart is fucking huge. You know, like I have so much love to give. And I know that even if I get stuck on a little negative thought, I always know in the back of my head that that's not my journey, that being stuck is not for me. I'm constantly growing, I'm constantly evolving, and that is my journey. And if I don't feel ready for something, it's okay. Like I get my nails done every 3 to 4 weeks, and my nail tech has been through this whole breakup with me. So every time I go, like every 3 weeks that I go, she's like, every time I see you, you're just doing so much better after the breakup. Like you, when you first came in, you look so sad. I felt your sadness. And she was just explaining how heavy she felt because of how heavy my aura was. And she was like, now, like, I just feel like it happened so quickly. Like, your energy is so good now. And not this time that I got my nails done, but last time, I was just kind of explaining to her that I just needed to focus on myself, that I needed to, keep going to my workout classes, that I needed to open up myself to dating. And she was like, oh, yeah, then you can find someone better. And at that point, I wasn't ready to hear that because my best friend would say that shit all the time too. I was like, no, I'm not ready to hear that. I'm not ready to hear that. But I knew in my head that that was a truth that I was avoiding. And I just said, you know what? I acknowledge that that's the truth, but I'm just a little bit not ready yet. Dude, when I got this set, I was like, bitch, I got all these hot guys on my DMs. Honestly, when you let go the blessings, bitch, when you let go of things that don't serve you, of feelings that don't align with you, of negative self-talk, of people that don't want to be with you, when you let go and when you just let people do what they're gonna do, so many other amazing things come. Like, and I'm not saying that, okay, yeah, hot guys is like the ultimate best thing, but it's nice, you know? I mean, it's like it's nice. And I mean, I've always attracted attractive men, but I don't know, this batch of attracting attractive men that I'm attracting, it's like, dude, they're sexy. I feel like this is the sexiest batch that I've ever gotten. Um, so yeah, I mean, for this set, I was like, I'm ready, dude. Like, I don't even know if I don't even think I want this person back. When I did want him back a few weeks for 2 months, well, for four, right? Since the breakup, I wanted this person back. I was still entertaining that idea, but I've worked so hard on myself to focus on my well-being, to focus on what's good for me, to find the truth, right? Because this situation was very confusing. And because I focused on that so hard, even though I still had the negative emotions of the breakup and still longing for him, the longing and all that stuff just faded by itself. I didn't even really like focusing on that and like just sulking and romanticizing the suffering would never help, right? Because I didn't do that. I just processed it and cried whenever I needed to and went back to focusing on myself. It all that just faded. And I talked with myself and I journaled and I'm like, do I really want somebody that doesn't want to be with me? You know, it's as simple as that, right? And Do I want to be with somebody that chose to date other women instead of being with me? Do I really want somebody that doesn't want to face their feelings and their emotions and doesn't want to have a relationship with me? You know, like, no, of course not. I don't want that. It doesn't feel good. It doesn't feel like love anymore. And if it's not love, then I don't want it. So the feelings may be love. You know, the feelings, I don't know, if I'm assuming he still has some feelings, they may be love, but the actions aren't. So you always gotta have both. You gotta have the feelings and the actions. If anything, the actions always matter so much more. So now I feel like happy. I feel content. I feel like I'm letting go. I'm in the final stages. And it feels so damn good, dude. Like it feels so good, and it's a lot of work. You know, you're working out. You're working out your mental health, and doing a physical workout isn't easy, but it feels so great. So, yeah, now my process is very intentional, and I've realized that the path to loving myself is just finding where I don't. So, before I didn't love myself because I felt ugly, right? Like that was one of the many reasons. So I worked on that. I worked on that. I'm like, here's the truth in front of me. I feel like I lack confidence. I feel like I don't love myself because I don't find myself attractive. What do I do with this truth of me not finding myself attractive? What do I do with it? I worked on my beauty. I made myself more attractive. I did the things I had to do to make myself more attractive, which was at the time was like this journey was in like 20 when I was 24. I had gained a lot of weight at that point, so I did not like the way that I looked. I lost the weight. I started doing my hair better, started experimenting with my hair, keeping my hair healthy. I got lip filler. You know, like I just started working on like beautifying myself. And okay, that's the physical things I can do. Sometimes I feel like I'm still lacking. So what else can I do? Oh, I need to work on my mental health. What is my perception of beauty? Like, why am I so hyper focused on it? Is it that important? Like, what's the value? What's the value that the world gives to beauty? What's the value that I choose to give it? Because you have a choice, bitch. When it comes to everything in your life, you have a choice. And anything that is out of your control is not your fucking responsibility, bitch. So, but it is your responsibility to heal yourself and to work on yourself. So, after I saw this truth, I worked on my beauty, I made myself more attractive, and I learned that beauty is not the most important fucking thing in the planet, right? There's always going to be somebody prettier. There's always going to be I'm always maybe going to feel insecure maybe about one little thing. Maybe I'll gain weight here and there. Maybe I'll like won't have money for filler or whatever the case may be, or I'm out and I like a guy and he chooses another girl. Whatever, right? Whatever the case may be, it's not that fucking serious. So, got that truth, check mark, fixed it, processed it, journaled about it, talked about it to my therapist, done. With this breakup that I had, let's see, where else am I not loving myself? I knew that I wasn't going to stay stuck on this. From the moment he broke up with me, I knew. I obviously like I loved him so much and I wanted to be with him, but I always knew I decided this truth for myself. If somebody doesn't want to be with me, I have a choice. I either stay stuck in limerence and obsession or I move the fuck on, bitch. I move the fuck on. So in that moment, I was like, okay, I wanted to fight for the relationship. I do still think it was worth a fight. Obviously, like it was a great relationship. He's a great person and he was just going through some shit and he did me dirty, but I was like, this is not the type of thing. I'm not cheating or anything like that. So I'm like, it's worth the fight. It's worth the motherfucking fight. So I fought for that relationship. I did what I could and nothing, you know? I got nothing. You know, he still left. And when that finally happened, I had another choice. I'm like, I can stay stuck, but now I know this other truth. Now I'm face to face with this other truth is he doesn't want to be with you. He would rather do what he's doing. He doesn't want to be with you. Otherwise, he just would. So this truth hurts and it's ugly, So I cried until I was on the verge of throwing up, and I processed all of that. And every time I felt unworthy, every time I felt sad, abandoned, every time I felt angry, I addressed that immediately. I journaled about it. I talked about it to my therapist. I talked to my friends about it. I try to find things to do that would help me and not distract me. And I even asked myself, am I ready to date? Should I just move on? Because some people, will say like, oh, the best way to get over someone is to get under somebody else. I think that's bullshit, dude. That's bullshit. I I've gotten over people without ever sleeping with anybody. And that's a much better way of getting over people because it is certain. Like I realized this because I got on Hinge and I deleted it. I was like, I actually don't want to date. Even if this person has already moved on and dating, why am I still thinking about what this other person is doing? Am I doing things for him or for me? He's gone. He left. Why am I still doing me sleeping with somebody else? When you try to get over someone by sleeping with somebody else, you're still doing things for them. It's all about them still. So my goal, once I saw that other ugly truth, okay, let me just do what I want to do. I deleted the app and I didn't reinstall it until I was like, you know what? I do want to go out with guys. I want to have my free dinners. I want to go out. I want to meet new people. I want to have fun. I want to be around cute, attractive people. For me, now self love, like it's always about facing the ugly truths, bringing them to the surface and facing them and addressing them. So, yeah, with this, I was like, okay, well, I'm still doing this for him. Um, yeah, no, there's no way. I have to stop. I really have to stop. So then I had to figure out, how do I stop? And and I don't want this. Like I know what I want. So I'm actively going against myself if I keep being mentally and emotionally tied to him. No. No. And that's the thing in the back of I had made that decision a long time ago before I met him, before I met other guys. I will never stay stuck on somebody that doesn't want to be with me. That was loving myself, right? And obviously the journey can be a little tougher, but you can do it. If I can get over who I thought was the love of my life, the only person that I've ever thought was the love of my life in in 2 to 4 months, you can do anything, bitch. You can do anything. And I've always known that. Even if I fall in love, even if I like even if the person treated me like a queen, right? The moment they don't want me is a moment that I need to do the same. Can't want somebody that doesn't want me. That's just absolutely fucking ridiculous. That is nonsense. I will always love myself more. I will always take care of myself more because the reason I'm able to love so freely and so abundantly is because I've given that to myself. That is why I love this person the way that I did. That is why I take care of the people that I love the way that I do. It is because I've poured into myself. So if you don't value that, if you don't want to be around that, then it's the energy's not matching and there's nothing I can do. I also always ask myself, what is the best thing that I can do right now? What is the best thing that I could do with this situation? And with this, it was like, I need to move on. I need to forget. And there was I felt shame and I felt guilt because I knew that this person was like going through a hard time. And I felt this with my friends too. Um, and like friends that have done me really dirty because they don't love themselves, because they don't pour into themselves. So the moment that they come face to face with real love, they don't know what to do with it and they sabotage, right? So I have felt guilty because I'm like, I know that these people aren't bad. I know that these people don't have bad intentions and it hurts, like I want to hug them, but to at the cost of what? It's like I my lesson in this life, one of my lessons in this life is to, oh, I don't want to get emotional because I don't want to ruin my makeup. Um is to stop comforting people that won't comfort me, even if they are great people. I see their potential, like I see what they're capable of, and I see how great and abundantly they could love. But they don't. You can't make people do anything. So, you have to release that guilt and I've transformed that guilt and that shame of like having to let these honestly beautiful wounded people go into, you know what? This is just a reflection of how much I love. And me distancing myself, me removing myself from their lives and removing access, that is me taking that love that I would have given into them, into their broken glass, pouring it back to myself. So that takes care of that guilty feeling. I'm just like, no, I need to take control over my life. I need to take control over my life. I need to take care of myself and heal my wounds. You know, they broke me, they hurt me. I am wounded right now because of what they did. Why am I gonna go and try and mend their bigger wounds when I'm bleeding? It's just, it's not gonna help anybody. They're not gonna appreciate that help. So you have to let people do what they gotta do and learn their own lessons. Don't get in the way of other people's karma. Don't. Don't. Just let go and continue to love how you love, loving yourself, loving others, and everything else will follow. Like all like, even just like being stuck on him, that just was so easy for me to release because I'm flowing and because I'm doing my fucking best, bro. And I've been doing my best for a long time. So I'm grateful to the lessons that I've learned. I'm grateful to myself and to challenging myself. That's another important thing. If you want to learn how to love yourself, it's a constant practice, right? It's a constant practice. You can literally decide to love yourself right now. Right now, today. The thing is a lot of people think that they can't do it because they don't feel it, right? But if you grew up not feeling that love, not wanting to love yourself, you're not going to feel it instantly. That's crazy. Like when you go run on a treadmill, do you feel ready to run a marathon? Like you haven't worked out in like years and then now you're going to get on the treadmill. Do you feel you know, oh, like I can't do this because I can't run a marathon? I'm not asking you to run a marathon, bitch. I'm just asking you to put your fucking shoes on and get on the motherfucking treadmill and put it at 1 mile per hour, bitch. That's all. That is all. And it's not gonna feel authentic at first. It's not gonna feel right, but you know that that's what you have to do. Take motherfucking responsibility, bitch. Take responsibility over your life. You have two choices: fight the good fight and live a happy, fulfilling life with its ups and downs, or stay miserable. Or stay motherfucking miserable, bitch. Yeah. Like, it's easy for people to just stay on the couch in their gluttonous sin of misery and do nothing. But what's more honorable, what's better, and what is the right thing to do for you and for the people around you is to get the fuck up, put your motherfucking tennis shoes on, and start walking on that treadmill, even if it's slow, even if it's slow. Because once you start walking, then you're gonna start running. Yeah, constantly challenge yourself, and it feels good. It feels good, and it's so worth it. I have gone through hell and motherfucking back, and I could stay in that hell and be like, I'm so tired, people suck. Sure. But because I've been through hell, I am tired. I am not dealing with that. I understand life now. Negative things happen. Things aren't always fair. But you like understand your fucking privilege too, because I am so privileged to be in a first world country, to be healthy, to be able to work, to be young. Those are all privileges. And I have to use that to the best of my fucking advantage. And that's it. Be grateful. Be motherfucking grateful for what you have. And when you start this self-loving journey, it's not gonna may not feel authentic. Sometimes maybe it will. I don't know, maybe it will. But I don't know, for me it felt a little weird. It's not gonna feel authentic. It's not, maybe it'll feel uncomfortable, but it's the right thing to do. It is the logical thing to do. It is the reasonable thing to do. It makes sense. If you do it for anything, just do it because it makes sense. Being miserable doesn't make any sense. Dude, it's just pathetic. That's the truth. Staying in your misery when you have the option to not do that, to rewire your brain, to work on yourself, that's just fucking pathetic, especially as a grown as adult. Like, I know it's hard, but get your shit together. Other people have done it, and you can do it too. I've also realized that I have to approach life and from a positive perspective. And I don't say this with like toxic positivity, like, oh, just think positive, just don't ignore the negative. You can't ignore the negative, baby. You can't ignore that shit. Like when I went through my acting shit and I faced racism and sexism, it's there. It's there. Of course I'm going to feel a certain type of way. Of course I'm going to have my opinions about it. You can't avoid the negative, but what you do with it is you look at it, you analyze it, and you find a solution. You find the positive, especially if you had options. So my lesson for that, for my acting, for my creative journey, is I'm a woman, I live in this world. These things might come up. Maybe they won't. Maybe I'll get lucky. Maybe they won't. But if they do, I'm just going to do my best, bitch. I am going to do my best, and that's it. Why? Because I can. It's really that motherfucking simple. It's so simple. It is so logical. Being mentally healthy, stable is just the logical thing to do, and you can do it. The thing is, it's not going to be from one day to the next. It's a journey. I've been on this journey for years. I'm going to be 30 next month. It's a lifelong process, but it's so rewarding. And every time I recap on my growth, it's just it feels so good. Like even when I got with my ex in the beginning, I was actively working on myself. Like my goal at that time was to fix my anxious attachment when it came to romantic relationships. And when I dated guys before him, I was working on it. I was working on it. Every time I got triggered, I took a deep breath, I went inside, I went internal, and I asked myself questions, I self-soothed, did all that shit. When I got with him, oh God, I did the same, but because we were boyfriend and girlfriend, he had to deal with some of those, and thank God for his patience, for his softness, because he was the perfect person to practice that with and to heal that wound. So I am grateful for him for that. And that kind of makes me think, you know what? I don't regret being nice to him, even if he did me dirty. Like his goodness definitely outdoes the bad. So I'm also very grateful for that. Now that I'm like letting go, it's just I can remove my ego and my desire to possess and just like value him as a person and just like see him for the beautiful things that he did do for me and the potential that he has. The thing is I can't really get into that too much. I just God bless him. You have to bless people. Like same thing with my friendships that I've had to let go of. Even the girls, one of the girls that did me the dirtiest, I saw her a few months ago at her work, and I didn't feel any sort of resentment or anything like that. If anything, like I don't know if she's grown at all. Let's say she hasn't. Let's assume that she hasn't. I don't feel any sort of type of way. And I just wish her the best and that's it. There's nothing that I can do. I can't think about whether she's grown or whether she hasn't. I can't have limerence over like, oh, like, but she was so much fun, but this, that. No, it's done. It's over. Move the fuck on. And that feels good. That feels very satisfying. I feel so grounded. I feel better. And oh my God, also, I'm gonna end here because my laptop is running out of battery and I gotta go. I got a sushi date, bitch, with a hot man. But, what was I gonna say? Fuck. I forgot. Oh, yeah, I remember. The good thing about these sort of situations, hardships, financial hardships, breakups, whatever, the good thing about these is that they force you to be in the moment. Aside from the lessons that you learn, they force you to be in the moment because it's so painful. It's so raw, it's so dramatic and intense. And oh my God, if there's one good thing that I've gotten many good things out of this experience, out of this very painful experience. I've gotten so many rewarding things. And one of them is the presence that I'm able to achieve now because I've struggled with dissociation since 19 years old, 10, 11 years now. All my whole 20s, I've been struggling with a messy brain and voices in my head and not being in the moment, just being stuck in here and numbing myself with my phone. I've been struggling with that for a long time, and this situation was so raw, and it tested what I believed in. It tested my bravery. Like, I was brave. I was brave to fall in love. It's something that I allowed myself to do. So it tested me. It tested me. And it really made me wake up, be in the moment. Now it's easier. Like, I'm still, dealing with that, but it's brought me more in the moment. Um, it's challenged me to be like, are you going to fall in that hole of despair, or are you going to look at the situation for what it is? And that sometimes you don't have control over things. Sometimes you are brave and you want to fall in love, and then it doesn't work out. Like, my fear came true. Like, one of my biggest fears with this relationship was, oh, what if he leaves me? And he did, and it came true. And before, I was like, what am I going to do if that happens? I don't even want to think about it. Girl, I'm fine. I'm fine. Like, I suffered. I suffered. I don't want to downplay it, because it was the hardest breakup I've ever been through. For sure. Not even my abusive ex was difficult because that's abuse. This was difficult because it had to do with my bravery, with my heart. Like, I actually gave my heart to this person. It wasn't just attachment, it was love. So, yeah, I mean, I'm fine, and I'm very proud of myself, because it's taken work, it's taken a lot of trial and error. I have failed multiple times, but that's the thing, it's like, you fail, you learn, you do it again, and you do it better, and you're happier. It's Failure is not actually failure. It's really not. It's just information. I love saying that. Things are just information for you to grow, for you to learn, for you to keep going. And I am glad that I had this relationship. I am so glad that I grew so much from it. I grew so much from the relationship itself, and I grew so much from the relationship itself, and I grew from its ending as well, especially from its ending, because I had to take all my lessons together and see, like, what is the goodness that I can take from this. Oh my god, my computer ran out of battery. But um yeah, these are just I'm going to conclude right now because I don't want to be fucking late. Um but yeah, this has just been my life, the things that I've learned through my relationships, my hardships, my depression, my mental health. And I really do believe that these are things that can help everybody. It's you These are lessons for everyone. And I've just shared my life to kind of put some perspective on these lessons. But yeah, I mean, you have to make the decision to help yourself, to heal, and yeah, make the decision to start loving yourself, and know that ugly truths that come up are just information. They are just information, and they might be hard and they might be tough, but the best thing to do is to address them, is to bring them to the surface, address them, clear them, and move on. And it gets easier. If there's one thing that I can say, is that it gets motherfucking easier. If I had experienced this relationship years ago, maybe when I first came to LA or back home in El Paso, first of all, I would have been so unhealed that I would have probably sabotaged it, because this person was good to me, right? So I wouldn't have known what that fucking was, what that looked like. And if I would have gotten in it and he would have left me, oh my goodness, I would have been in shambles, because I wouldn't have loved myself. And if it had happened in that point in time, that information would have been up here. Maybe it would have been bigger, but it was still up here. And it's like, why are you stuck on somebody that doesn't want to be with you? Even if they say they love you, even if they have their issues, whatever the case may be, they are not with you. They're choosing to not be with you. That is enough to let go. That is more than enough. That is more than enough. That was my lesson here. Um, so because I've done so much work and it was really hard back then, now this situation that would have been a fucking storm, that would have been an apocalypse back in the day, now it's not that at all. It's very painful. It's the most I've ever, it's one of the toughest cries I've had in my life, but it was a smooth process of letting go. And I knew that pain, like enduring, not enduring, but processing that pain, was just a necessary part of the journey, of the process. It wasn't anything to be stuck on. I just had to flow through the storm. And the storm was not as, it was big, but I was stronger, so it didn't feel that big. But yeah, I am done. I am done with today's episode. I hope you guys learned something from this. This has been, life is crazy, you know. I'm very grateful for life, for who I am, for this body, for this mind, this heart. Very grateful, and I wish nothing but for people to have that as well, and to have more, and to have it abundantly. It's That's what life is for. It is the only rational thing to do. It just makes sense. But yeah, thank you guys so much for listening, and I'll see you on the next one. Bye.